Damn. I'm really out now.
So if you see a ball joint doing this, just know that your ball joint is finished, because a ball joint is not supposed to roam freely like this. So once it does this, just know it's time to replace. So that's the reason why I'm replacing mine.
Oh, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know I've not been around and it's been a minute, so yeah, welcome back to the channel. And today we're gonna be changing some ball joints of this car that have been damaged, and because of the damage we have seen some things that also need more attention on the car. The things like the tie rod ends, they've not yet popped out the grease, but they are also not in good shape. They're not shaking anyway, but they're not also in good shape. What we need to change is the ball joints. Here's one over here. So what we need to change is the ball joints which have been popped. Actually the other side has been popped, but this one still looks fine, so I just can't change one side and leave this other one, so I need to deal with them both. So that's what we're going to do today, and yeah, so let's just get right on it. So the first thing that we're gonna do is just to spray some WD-40 so that the studs can flow freely from the bolts. So the ball joints are located on the lower control arm, which is the only control arm with these cars. Some cars have two control arms, but this one only has one control arm. So we're gonna start with this one, then we're gonna go and do the same thing on the other side, but I'm only going to show you this side because the same thing that I'll be doing on this side is the same thing that I'll be doing on the other side. So only going to show this one. So what I'm trying to do right now is just to spray the WD-40 so that we can get the bolts to be at least loose. Then we're going to continue with the job. So now that we've sprayed the WD-40, what you need is a number 16 socket to get it loose from the control arm. So okay, it seems like the socket is a bit shorter than the stud, so it cannot reach the bolt completely. So what I'm going to do is to use an open end wrench just to get it loose. So what I realize is that I also don't have a number 16 spanner, so I'm just going to use a 17, and I with hope that it doesn't strip the bolt. But I don't recommend that you do this. See how loose the bolt comes off when you spray WD-40. They just loosely come off. You can just take them off by hand. So what we need to do right now is just to loosen the bolt which holds the control arm onto the steering knuckle. The ball joint onto the steering knuckle. So there's a bolt right about here. There's a bolt right about there. This bolt. I'm not sure if you can see that, but this one, it holds the ball joint onto the steering knuckle. So we need to loosen this one up so that we can be able to then pull the ball joint out of the steering knuckle before we can just pull this one off. Because if we pull this one off, now the ball joint will no longer have a place to support it. So this might spin when we're turning out the bolt. So what I need to do right now is just to also spray the WD-40 so that we can then take this bolt off easily. This bolt is taken off by a 19mm socket or a spanner. You can choose whatever to use, but a spanner is best to use on this socket because when you're not getting it loose, there's a point where you're not going to be able to pull out the socket if it's in, so it's best to use an open end wrench. So now that we've got the bolt loose, what we can do is just to pull down the control arm. Then for you to take out this ball joint, you're going to need a tool
that is going to press on this ball joint so that it comes out. What I need to mention is that you cannot use a hammer to take out the ball joint, because if you use a hammer you might mess up with some steering mechanism right here. Mostly when people take out the tie rod end, they use a hammer to hammer this down, and after that they find that their steering is way too hard to turn. It's because they not messed up with the steering wheel or the mechanisms which control the steering wheel, because this is a power steering wheel. So once you do that, you might run a risk of messing up your power control steering wheel. So please just be sure that you don't need to do this. But if you need to hammer it, you can do it because it's your car, but I'll advise against hammering your car. So what we can do right now is just to hold down this, then pull this out. So now that this is out, what we can do, these rubbers are really tight. So what we can do right now is then to get a tool that is going to push this down. So as I'm trying to put the tool in here, it doesn't fit at all. So I think what I'm going to have to do is to end up taking off the drive shaft so that we can be able to pull this out. What you need to do to make sure that the drive shaft doesn't spin is to put a locking pin here so that when the disc is spinning, it blocks the drive shaft from spinning. So this is in between the brake disc and the caliper, so this will stop the drive shaft from spinning. To take off the drive shaft, you'll need a number 27mm. You'll need a 27mm socket to take off the drive shaft. So let's go. Okay. So if you see a ball joint doing this, just know that your ball joint is finished, because a ball joint is not supposed to roam freely like this. So once it does this, just know it's time to replace. So that's the reason why I'm replacing mine. There we go. So now the ball joint is loose from the steering knuckle. So now you can see it rotates freely. So what I need to do is to counter hold it so it doesn't spin when I'm taking it off. Then that's it. Okay, now the ball joint is off. So what I needed to do in order to make sure that this bolt doesn't spin, as you can see inside of this bolt, this is a Torx. This bolt has a Torx head. So I use the T30 to counter hold this bolt from spinning when taking it out. So that's what you needed to do. So now what I'm going to do is to make sure that I replace this ball joint with the same ball joint that is like this one, because with this ball joint what happens is these studs, as you can see, these studs are held onto the ball joint. So if you use studs which are separate from the ball joint, what you'll find out is that when you're using hand tools just like me and you don't have power tools or air tools, what you'll find out is that when you're tightening this bolt, the stud will be spinning and you'll never be able to get the stud to be correctly tight. So when you take off when driving, you'll hear the clicking sounds and you'll have a hard time trying to find out where the sound is coming from. So these are the ball joints that I'm going to be using to replace. So as you can see, here's the ball joint that I'm replacing with. So you can see that the studs as well are stuck onto the ball joint too. So you're not going to have a problem with not having a tight ball joint, because now these studs are stuck onto the ball joint, just like the one that we took off right here. So when you replace ball joints, always make sure that you get a ball joint which is welded onto the studs, please. So now what I'm going to do is to counterhole the ball joint. So now it is tight. So now the ball joint is tight. What we need to do is to put back the drive shaft in. Okay, the drive shaft is in. Now the control arm. This is the ball joint. The difficult part is done. Now that's it. So what I need to do right now is to put back the studs in. First one in, second one in. So I've put back the ball joint. Now everything is tight. You can see the ball joint is shiny and new, so that's how it is. So right now what I need to do is to put back this bolt. I know these are torque to yield bolts, but I don't have a new one, so I'm just going to put back the old one that I have. It's better than nothing, right? So that's how you replace a ball joint. It may be a little bit tight, but it's nothing scary. So right now I'm just going to put this pin back on, then tighten this nut right here for the drive shaft, then that's it. Damn, I'm really out now. Oh man. Fuck. So right now what I'm going to do is just to let me think. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to use it like this. So this is what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think we are way in too tight right now, so I'll have to get another power bar because this one broke. Fuck. That's how you replace a ball joint. So unfortunately some tools broke and we have to spend more. So I guess we've done the job then. That's a job well done, but really I'll have to spend more money, but I think that's a win for me because I got to change the ball joint, which is what I wanted. The tools here, we can always replace those. So if you like this video, then hit the subscribe button. Then I'm gonna see you on the next one. We out.
I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay.